Welcome back to Podiatry Marketing. I'm your host, Jim McDannald, joined as always by my trusty co-host, Tyson Franklin. Tyson, how are you doing
Oh,
today?
I'm good, Jim, and I'm so glad that I'm trusty. That's right. I always like to hear that.
I trust you more than any other of the people I do podcasts with. So, I mean, it's a lot of people there.
You've set that bar pretty low, haven't you? Okay. No, I'm good. Everything's fantastic over here. It's tropics. What can you say?
There you go. What are we going to jump into today?
Today, we are going to talk about leveraging semi-professional referrers for your podiatry practice. Or if you're in North America, it'd be semi-professional. But I speak both languages, as we were discussing before we press record.
Yeah, I mean, some people are going to say it's like semi-final. Like I'd probably say semi-final, like for a tournament and stuff. But semi, depends on what part of the country you're in.
So you'll say semi-final. You won't say semi-final.
No, I'd say semi-final.
Yeah. Do you say aluminium or aluminum?
Aluminum for sure.
Okay. We should do a whole episode just on the different languages and get a UK person on here, and we could do an episode because I'm sure people in the UK would have some funny things as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about before I talk about where semi-professional or semi-professional referrers fit in is just to quickly review the 6 pillars of marketing, which I've done in previous episodes. We did an episode for each pillar. Pillar number 1 was professional referrers. Pillar number 2 was non-professional referrers. So the semi-professional fits basically in between pillars 1 or 2. So it's now like a bonus pillar. You could almost call it pillar number 7. So for the other 4 that people are wondering, there's internal marketing, external marketing, what I call verbal marketing, which is anything that comes out of your mouth. Could be a presentation, could be a guest podcast, and online marketing, which is absolutely massive. But I think the semi-professional referrers, it's a really, really valuable source of patient referrals that I often overlooked for everybody. They just don't think about it. And when at my podiatry clinic, we sort of stumbled on it accidentally. But once we understood it, we went, oh my God, we need to do this more often. And even though I didn't, in my book, the world's greatest podiatry business book, it's no secret there's money in podiatry. I didn't mention it in there. I'm not sure why I didn't put it in, but I think I didn't want 7 pillars at the time. I just wanted 6. So my next book, I'll put it in there as a bonus pillar. Now, if people are wondering, are you wondering, Jim, what is a semi-professional referrer?
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, who are these people? Who are these people you haven't told me about that you had to create an entirely new pillar for?
Okay, so the best examples, and there's going to be other ones, but the best examples are accountants and lawyers. They're probably so you could look at financial planners would be the same thing. So anybody that's in the finance industry, management. Back in the day when we were doing this, we were doing a lot with banks as well. But now to try and find a bank manager is almost impossible. I don't know what it's like in North America, but in Australia, a lot of the banks themselves are closed and they just have holes in the wall and maybe a little, like a small bank where there might be 1 or 2 people in there, but there's no such thing as like a bank manager at a branch.
Yeah, I do most of my banking online, and I sometimes drop off a check at an ATM, but very rarely do I have interaction with any kind of human when it comes to banking.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I spoke to, well, actually, my sister-in-law works at a bank. So I do talk to a bank person every now and then, but I don't think I've ever spoken to her about banking. And I bank with a different bank, which makes it easier. But anyway, back to accountants and lawyers. So despite not being directly involved in the medical profession, they still can contribute to your patient base. They can add a lot of patients to your patient base. And the reason why this group's important, if you just have a look in your community, how many accounting firms do you have? How many law firms are actually in your community? I did a quick search before jumping on here. And just in Cairns, which a population's, say, 150,000, there's 35 law firms, which there's 35 potential places that could be referring patients to you.
That's huge. That's a lot of potential networking and connections there.
Yeah, and if you think accountants as well, there'd probably, I'm sure there's just as many accountants. I didn't look up accountants, but I know there's a lot, and there's some that are probably really small, and there's going to be other firms that which are going to be, yeah, absolutely huge. And that's how, when we came across it, there was an accounting firm called, back then they were called BDO Kendalls. I think now they might just be BDO, and they were a national company like all around the country, and they approached us. Could we come in and do a presentation for their staff? And I went, yeah, not a problem. How many staff? They said, oh, there'll be about 40 people in the room. Yeah, not a problem. Oh, and we'll pay you. So they paid me to turn up, do a 30 to 40-minute presentation with a bit of Q&A afterwards. We picked up maybe 5 or 8 patients from that presentation.
Wow.
On top of it, we were paid to actually be there, which I thought was great. But that's what sparked the idea off. And with accounting firms, I'm not sure about overseas, but in Australia, or a lot of businesses, a certain amount of money is put aside that they must spend on work health and safety, about employee education. And that was why they reached out to us. They said, oh, we've got this budget here. We need to spend some money. Will you come in and do the talk? We were like, well, if they've got a budget, maybe other people have a budget. And that's how the whole idea was started.
That's a really cool story. I didn't, that's not kind of an area of market or networking I'd necessarily thought of before.
Yeah, well, if you want to get into it, so that kicked the idea off. And then we went, well, if they've got that budget, that means other people have the budget. So then we started reaching out to other firms doing the same thing. Hey, we can come in and do a talk. We didn't ask to be paid though. We didn't say, oh, we'll do it for this fee. We just said we'd come in and do it. But there's still a few people then wrote back and said, oh, what's your fee for doing it? I went, oh, well, as a matter of fact. And so then we would throw something out. We'd stress test what we could get away with. So it was sort of like a win-win. But that's how we did it with accounting firms. Law firms, we did it a little bit different, which I will get onto. So if you want to know how do you get this thing started, you can just start with an email introduction if you want to do. Just send an email out to these firms. The only limitation might be you don't know if that email will actually get to the decision maker. That's the hardest part.
For sure.
So first you need to find out who are the decision makers in those firms. And sometimes some of these larger accounting firms and also the law firms will actually have like a professional practice manager who may not be a lawyer, may not be an accountant, but they're great. They've got management degrees and they are usually looking after the place. So that's the person you want to find out who they are. So you may need to phone the business and say, hey, I need to send some information. Who is the manager of the actual practice? Who makes the decisions on what happens and what doesn't happen? And the person on the phone, they'll just tell you. Because usually the person answering the phone is not the person who's making the decisions.
No, it's I've done that before sometimes to figure out exactly who's making decision in a larger, clinic when I'm trying to figure out who makes marketing decisions. So yeah, definitely you can find that out pretty easily.
Yeah. And usually I think the term over here, they refer to them as the business manager in the larger companies. If you can find out who they are, if you can get their email address, then you can go on their website. Their email address may be there. You can send them an email, introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about what you do. If you can't do it that way, but if you want to make sure that the information that you put together is going to end up in the right hands, you could do something where it could be registered mail. So it costs a little bit more, but at least it's going to end up in the hands of the person you want them to read it. So Federal Express, I've been seeing more FedEx trucks around our suburb. Never used to see them,
Oh yeah.
but I actually had a parcel delivered by them the other day. So what you want to do is make sure they're aware that you exist first, and then educate them a little bit about what podiatry is and how it can help their clients. So with the accounting firms, it was more, how can we help their team? But with if you're talking to a law company, you want to know, how can we actually help your clients, and how can we help you? And this is the one that the lawyers like. This is how we got into the law firms. And how can we increase the payouts that you get for your clients? Because a lot of times, if someone's had a foot injury, the lawyers are not even thinking about what's the long-term repercussions from a podiatry point of view, that what type of surgeries may need to be done. Does this person need orthotics in their shoes? How often do those orthotics need to get replaced? What type of footwear? Do they need to have different footwear now? Do they need multiple footwear? How often should the shoes get replaced? More so than if they hadn't have had that injury. And sometimes when we've gone through it, we've added $10, $20, $30, $50,000 extra to what they could claim for. And I tell you, that puts a big smile on a lawyer's face, especially if they're getting a percentage of what the person's payout is. But it's also good for the patient.
Yeah, I don't know how it is now, but when I was in practice in Oregon, there's a lot of workman's compensation claims
Yeah,
and things where you can jump in and help out in a case or give an opinion and charge a pretty reasonable billable hours for doing so. But yeah, that's one way that sometimes podiatrists would get involved with that. Sometimes people would be expert witnesses as well
yeah.
at trials and things, but that's the people that have it.
That's a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, but definitely those are kind of the 2 areas where I kind of podiatry and law that I've seen intersect. Some people are excited about that opportunity. Other people wanna stay really, really far away from both of those things.
Yeah, like I do know some podiatrists who are expert witnesses for law cases, and they write up these massive reports, and they get paid a lot of money to do it. But in a normal clinical situation, how we used to do it, we would say to them, send us the patient. We will do our initial consultation. We'll review what we think. We'll send you back a report on what we found and where we think costs could be involved down the track. And this was just, it was just it wasn't a detailed scientific report. We weren't planning on being an expert witness anywhere. We're just giving our advice and opinion. And we would charge them a couple $100, one for the consultation, and then additional money for the report, and we would get paid for it. That was best. We didn't have to wait until they won the case before we got paid. We got paid straight away. We got paid for the initial visit, and we got paid for the report.
Yeah.
And then down the track, sometimes it might be 2-3 years later, they may have got their payout, and that patient always came back, always got their orthotics and other treatment from our podiatry clinic. So you're playing a short game and a long game at the same time.
That's really interesting to hear about that.
It's if you haven't done this before, just do it. You have absolutely nothing to lose by doing it, and it's a little bit it's fun. The other thing I want to tell you is just, if you want to make contact with these sort of people, you've tried emails, maybe you've sent something out to them, is go to networking lunches. A lot of the Chamber of Commerce lunches, you will find there's always going to be lawyers there, and there's always going to be accountants. That's where they hang out. And the reason they hang out there is because a lot of them do business with each other. So if you happen to go there, you're talking to an accountant, just keep going back to those same networking lunches, and you'll find you'll get friendly with these people. Then you can start saying, hey, by the way, Jim, I sent something out to you a month or so ago. And if they go, oh, I didn't get it, just go, well, this is who I sent it to. If they go, oh, no, they're not there anymore. So you go, okay, well, I'm going to send something to you next week, or I'm going to drop it in. And that can be the next part is you've done the email, you've done the registered mail, you've gone to networking lunches, and you've got to know them a little bit. After that, if you're getting on good with them, take them out for coffee, take them out for a lunch, because if they're really friendly with you and they're referring patients to you, it will be worthwhile.
That's a great plan. I think it benefits not only your clinic, but you're also giving them a lot of value as well.
Yeah, and the last thing I just want to say on this particular subject is just maintain the contact. And this is with whether it's professional, non-professional, semi-professional, or semi-professional, is just maintain that contact. Just because they've sent one person to you doesn't mean you're going to be top of mind. If they've never used a podiatrist before and they send a client, and they might get some really positive feedback, they go, "Oh, that was fantastic." You need to, don't think that just because they sent one, they're going to keep sending them. You need to stay in touch with them. Whether you send them out your newsletter or you just send them some other information. And this is why it's beneficial going to a networking lunch, is because if you're there, even if you can't go every month, if you're going every couple of months, at least you're being seen, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing all that sort of stuff, being like a politician.
Well, you're staying top of mind, right? It's
Yeah.
if you're just like in your office, in your clinic, and no one sees you, right? Like you're never going to be top of mind. You're not going to be seen as kind of a valuable member of the community. You have to get out there, like you said, shake hands, kiss babies, do some politician networking type stuff to really going to be an important member of the community and be seen by these folks that will help you, potentially grow your practice.
Yeah. And I know there was when I moved to Cairns, there were like, say, 100 doctors or something at the time. And it took me about 3 or 4 months and I saw everybody. I went and saw every single GP. The amount of them that said to me, one, I've never met a podiatrist before. And I went, oh, okay. Or they said, oh, I met one 5 or 6 years ago, but I've never seen them since. And then after that, I was getting the referral. So it works the same way with lawyers, accountants, financial planners, anyone in investment finance, is once you've maintained that contact, once you've connected with them, just keep the connection going. Don't rest on your laurels and think it'll always be that way.
That's great advice.
That's all I had to say on this subject, Jim.
All right. Well, I think that's really valuable stuff. I think people, if you're not out there connecting with this seventh, pillar of accountants, financial planners, lawyers, it's a great opportunity, and definitely people should take advantage of that.
I think so as well. Okay, Jim, I look forward to talking to you next week.
Sounds great, Tyson.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Bye now.